James, I'd love to just quickly talk about Rebel Ridge, which is this movie that came out on Netflix a few weeks ago and it's become a kind of word-of-mouth hit. I want to talk about it for a couple of reasons. It's directed by Jeremy Saulnier, who has directed a few films I've really liked, specifically Blue Ruin and Green Room. And the episode we did like 2.5 years ago about underrated movies, Blue Ruin was one of mine. It's kind of this like anti-revenge thriller with some great moments of like really shocking violence, and Green Room is good as well. Have you seen Green Room?
No, but you've recommended it.
Yeah, really tight, focused thing with Patrick Stewart as the head of sort of some skinhead, far-right fascist punks. Really interesting. This movie has taken 5 years to make. It was originally a John Boyega movie in 2019. Production started in 2019, then shut down by COVID. It starts production again in 2021, a couple of acting changes in the background. It films for a month, then John Boyega leaves the project due to family difficulties, although it's a little bit mysterious, but that's the reason. Therefore, production is shut down again, and it's shut down for a year while they recast and have to find a new lead. And they find a new lead in another English actor called Aaron Pierre, who, by the way, is fantastic. And they then restart shooting a year later. So they've third attempt at shooting. They start again, but in the time it takes to replace John Boyega, they also lose other actors as well. So it's been a real sort of revolving door production. Anyway, they shoot it. 5 years later, you get Rebel Ridge. Now, what is Rebel Ridge? Rebel Ridge is about Terry, who the film begins. It's one of those films that begins immediately. We see Terry, who is a big, muscly, kind of like Jack Reacher type figure, 6'5", military background, riding into town in, I think it's Louisiana. And he's riding with his headphones in, and we see a cop car pull up behind him, flash its lights. He's completely unaware it's behind him. And then the car runs him off the road and clips him. He sort of says, what are you doing? You know, he's bloodied. He says, what did you do that for? They say, hands on the ground, get your head down. And it's a classic case of very tense law enforcement, Black American encounter, right? They take his bag and he says, I've got to get into town by 4:00. And they say, what's in the bag? Anyway, it turns out in his bag is several thousands of dollars of money, which he is using to get into town to post bail for his cousin. And he needs to post bail by 4:00, otherwise his cousin is going to be transferred to the state security prison, which he doesn't want to have happen because of stuff to do with what happened in his cousin's past. Anyway, the police let him go, but they seize his money. It's actually a legal thing that the police can do due to a legal loophole that the FBI are allowed to do to break down cartels, where they can take money if they think it's being used for drug running, okay? So, but this is a little local sheriff's department, so they seize his money, so therefore he has not got the money to post bail for his cousin. And you have this very tense setup then, where he is dealing with a corrupt local police department, and also the ticking time bomb of his cousin needing to be freed from incarceration. And in kind of the genre setup, it's very much feels like a kind of B-movie rampage film where you think it's going to gear up to this guy who's built, frankly, like a brick shit house, about to take down this local police department. By the way, the sheriff is played by Don Johnson in just a wonderful, like, shit-eating role that he does, with a shit-eating grin. However, one of the things that makes it really interesting, it is one of the cleanest rampage movies I have ever seen. Given the fact that Jeremy Saulnier's previous work is really violent and shocking, I was waiting for someone to get their head blown off by a shotgun. That doesn't happen. It's really, really clean and tight. Aaron Pierre, as Terry, his whole character is about conflict de-escalation. So the action scenes of this film are him grabbing people's guns and completely dismantling them. It's him flipping people over and putting them into a sleep chokehold. Very entertaining action, but also very smartly done, and then it's all about de-escalation of conflict. He then befriends someone at the local town hall who processes these types of cases, and he starts to realize there's a wider thing happening with lots of other cases where people have their money seized, arraigned on charges that are then dropped. And the film then kind of moves on to be about a kind of wider, kind of corrupt legal town thriller. Anyway, I thought this film was great, actually. I thought it was absolutely great. It's 2 hours long, and particularly in the first half, I was absolutely gripped to my seat. I thought it was white hot good. Like I said, it's just a film that begins straight away. It's super focused. It's super tense. You have this tension of this, like I said, Aaron Pierre, who's just completely magnetic. I haven't seen a debut before. He's not a debut. He's been in other stuff, but like, it's his first lead role in this kind of vehicle, and I'm watching him thinking, "Wow, a star is born." I really could see that.
Great.
It's. I almost feel like saying, John Boyega, like, more for you, because this is a great. I mean, for whatever reasons, John Boyega had to leave the project. I'm sorry, but like, this is a great vehicle. Really tense, really tight. The second act, the second half of the film, like, it gets a little bit plotty, and they start to like slightly overdevelop the concept. Still very effective, but. My God, together it's. I thought it was really good, really white hot, really tight. And the sad thing is that from my UK perspective at least, it seems to me like Netflix has absolutely buried this film.
I've not heard of it.
Exactly.
Till today.
I only managed to catch wind of it because of Letterboxd. Now maybe it got a little push in the US, but it is an absolute tragedy because it is so good and so well made and took 5 years to make from a really good director with up and coming talent in it. It's got Don Johnson in it. And I was really sad to see that it's basically been buried. And it's like John Boyega leaving the project is the best and worst thing to have happened to this film. Best in that they found Aaron Pierre.
It would have got marketing and
totally.
stuff.
I get it. You lose a star. So Aaron Pierre, great for him, a great performance. Yeah. But also it means that the film then just sits at the back of the carousel. So that's why I wanted to review it, because I really want people to go and see it. It's only 2 hours. Really great. Honestly, I was sat thinking, this is really excellent stuff. Really tight thriller. And it's always smarter than you think it's going to be.
Nice. You'd hope it has a sort of Society of the Snow effect, which is also a Netflix film, which came out to not much of a splash, but slowly over the months, people were writing in about it and saying how much they enjoyed it. And that's the thing you hope. What you'd want a streaming service to do, which is it gets to sit on a great streaming service and it's available for people to watch, and that's where it gains an audience. But and it's great to hear.
Absolutely. And like I recognise that it's also got a very generic title.
Yeah, I think it was the imagery I'm looking at now. I think that doesn't. There are lots of other things that Netflix will make that's marketed like that doesn't necessarily appeal to me. But I might have looked at that and dismissed it.
I really recommend people, if you've got a 2 hours, a plane, or anything, your plane ride, or some time available, and you want to put something on, Rebel Ridge, great movie.
Great, guys. If you've seen Rebel Ridge, and you had any thoughts, concerns, reviews, please send them in, as always, to hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com, and we would love to read them out on the show. When did it come out?
I want to say early September.
Yeah, okay.
So it's been out a few weeks, but it has been getting a bit of like Letterboxd, there's some traction, and do check it out. But it's been absolutely buried.
Yeah,
Netflix.
No, honestly,
come on.
I recognise the imagery, but I would have completely slept on it. Great to hear though. Maybe I'll check it out.